Hello everybody, my name is Tanner Kyler, and here today I'm going to be going down to our riparian area here in Oklahoma to talk about some of the native tree and bush species along with some of the other native forbs and grasses. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to walk out here into a marsh that I've been restoring. It has a lot of non-native things growing in it, but we have a very beautiful area of native sedges growing here. I'm not sure which species these are. We have glow sedges and nut sedges growing here, but they are very pretty. And if I come out here, you can see kind of all their poofy tops here. This species is different from that one. I can tell that, but I can't tell you what they are exactly. But this area has come a long way. We have elderberry starting to grow in it, some red buds that I planted here. And above, we have a restored area, but an area that was once logged, or not logged, but dozed. And we have a massive black oak tree here. I'm gonna walk up and show how big this thing is. So this black oak here is at least 100 years old, probably older than that. It has been here for a very long time, and as you can see, it is very large in comparison to me. This tree is very resilient. It definitely likes wetter areas. So right down here we have a creek. We have a giant bur oak tree right here growing on the other side. I'm a little worried it's going to fall in due to erosion, but we're trying to prevent that from occurring. So right here, this tree is a Quercus family at least, but is a very beautiful and large tree. I'm going to go ahead and show you here. It's sending out all these branches, as it used to be part of a canopy forest, but it's been dozed since then. So now these trees are pushing out branches over here. If I flip the camera around, we have another black oak here and another one right here, along with this one here. They're all about the same size and age and maturity, with probably a few decades separating them. But over here we have another large, I believe it's a pin oak. This one broke during a storm, but it is showing resilience and recovery. It's also got hollow spots now for things like owls and other species of bird and small mammals like squirrels to live inside of, and raccoons. Right behind this tree we have a large pin oak, and it's dropped some seed off into the lawn, and I'm allowing some of its babies to grow back. Over here we have a giant 200-300-year-old sycamore, American sycamore tree growing, and we're gonna go get a closer look at those when I walk down here towards this creek. I'm not sure if my phone's picking up all of the wind. I apologize if it is. It's a really windy day today, like it is a lot in Oklahoma. But right here we have another beautiful species of grass, or I believe it might be a sedge. It is known as broom sedge, but I think it's a bluestem species, so I think it is in the grass family. But it is a remediation species, meaning it comes back and repairs damaged soils. It likes damaged soils. So this area, I've counted about 15 or 16 of them growing here, and I'm hoping they'll thicken up with time. But this is an excellent species to plant in restoration areas, but also in your yard, as it doesn't get too large. It can get maybe 4 or 5 feet tall at its max, but it doesn't have too much of a flopping habit. And it also turns a golden orangey color, and once the frost hits, and that lasts a month or so. So really good winter interest here. But this is the broom sedge. I'll put its Latin name on there, but I believe it's in the bluestem families. And with that, let's keep on moving down to the creek. So I am bringing a shovel with me here to go dig up some elderberries. There are hundreds of them. Sorry, I'm climbing a fence right now. Anyways, so I am bringing the shovel to come dig up some of the elderberries, as this area on this side of the fence is heavily grazed by cattle. The grasses are not near as thick, so things like elderberries and box elder trees have taken over down here. And I say taken over, it is their native habitat, but because there aren't as many shrubs and grasses as there originally was, a lot of the forbs have taken over, while the grasses have been, chewed down by cattle. All right, so right here we have a hackberry tree. The hackberry tree is a very important species for migrating birds, as it produces a lot of fruits that the birds can eat. This one is rather young. They also get really pretty bark on them down low. They get these really coarse patterns. This one's young, so it's hard to see. It's also growing up in a fence line, so I don't know how well it's going to make it into the future. But it is in the elm family. I couldn't tell you the specific epithet, though I did know it at one point. But anyways, this is a important species for certain species of butterfly, and I'll try to figure out what those are and put them on here. But it is an excellent shade tree. It is a bit weedy, it will spread, but like I said before, it makes a really nice shade tree, and is important for our migrating birds and also our insects and our pollinators. So if you're gonna have a lawn that you're gonna mow, you might as well put in a native tree that's going to benefit some of those pollinators and those birds as they're migrating through. So a hackberry is definitely an excellent choice. Very fast growing tree, really hardy, really drought tolerant, but also loves wet areas. So you really can't plant this in the wrong area, in my opinion. This is something growing on the other side within the restoration area that I just noticed for the first time ever, and it is something I've always wanted, and it is a native red mulberry. These actually produce bigger berries than the mulberries that you see growing from Europe, like the black and red, or black and white mulberry. So this is our native mulberry to Oklahoma throughout a lot of the United States. So if you're going to plant a mulberry, let's stop planting the European variety and let's plant some of these native red mulberries. They still produce very, very similar fruits. They're very hardy trees. It actually looks like we have 2 of them here. That is excellent. I didn't even know we had these. So that is really nice to see. You know, we're starting to get into late October now. So a lot of things are going to be losing their leaves soon. So I thought I'd get out here and, you know, take some videos before it's too late. But right now we're about to go into a box elder forest full of elderberries as well and talk about some of the native plants growing there. Right here we have some goldenrod that already went to flower. It looks like it's past flower. It's actually starting to produce some seed. I'm not sure what variety or species this one is, but I do notice that this species likes to grow in somewhat shaded areas. Our goldenrods are highly important for our pollinators. I've mentioned it before in this channel, but goldenrods are in the aster family. A lot of these asters, like New England aster and these goldenrods, are highly, highly important for our local and native butterflies and bees towards the later parts of the summer and early fall, as they're one of the few food sources around during that time, to especially help things like the monarchs get back to Mexico or Florida if you're further east. But anyways, yeah, a lot of people dislike the goldenrod, but I believe they're really beautiful plants and they have their purpose. They can be a bit weedy, so if you have a small lawn and you don't want it taking over a large portion of your garden, maybe think about not planting that if you are in that area. But if you have a large restoration area or somewhere where it doesn't really matter if it spreads around, excellent native species. Highly recommend any Solidago species native to your region. So here we are in the forest of box elders. This is our only native acer or maple to this part of Oklahoma. I do think there's some red maples maybe possibly and some silver maples further east, but here this far west in Osage County, Oklahoma, we tend to only get the box elders. So these have been actually eaten up by a lot of different native insect species, which is awesome, especially because now they're losing their leaves and aren't in so much importance for the plant. But they're really easy to identify, and one of the easy ways to identify them is by their green bark. So when they do get older, their trunks are turned less green, but their branches are green. So they're photosynthetic, meaning they can produce chlorophyll and make energy through their branches during the parts of the year where there's not as much leaf cover on these trees. So as you can see, this tree right here is growing and has lost its green color in its branches. They still make excellent shade trees. They are a bit weedy. Whenever they pop up, this whole forest is kind of full of the same species. But if we look down here, it's because it was dozed at one point, so they're kind of coming back and recovering the land. If we look down on the floor, we have American elms growing. Actually, there might be a cedar elm, but no, I think these are American elms. We have American elms coming back. We have some oaks. We have pecans coming back. So these things will eventually push through the box elders. Box elders are not the longest lived tree. They're also kind of weak wooded, so I wouldn't plant them right next to your house, but on the outskirts of your lawn, they're very important. They're very easy to identify. They have the classic kind of maple leaf shape. They have 3 lobes. So right here, they have 1 lobe and then 2 and then 3 main lobes. And they have the green photosynthetic bark, which is really cool in trees. And you don't see it too often, especially here in Oklahoma. You don't see a lot of photosynthetic trees. Well, we got something blooming over here. What is that? Huh. I've never seen this before. I don't even know if I should be touching it. Never seen this plant before. Let's try to identify it. Take some good shots of it, and I'll try to put the name on here. That thing's really pretty. Got these really like cotton-like tufts all over it. Obviously like shade and quite a bit of water. Right here we have American elm growing. That'll make a beautiful tree one day. But right up here we have our monster sycamore, and I'll go stand by the trunk and show you how big it is. But this sycamore is probably 200 to 300 years old, if I'm just guessing. We also have a lot of other things, like here is a Kentucky coffee tree growing, an excellent species. Really hardy, really resilient. They look a little dorky in their first few years when you plant them, but they end up becoming some of the best shade trees in Oklahoma, in my opinion. They highly drought tolerant. They also get these large bean pods on them. They're in the Fabaceae family, meaning that they fix nitrogen to the soil from the bacteria that lives on their roots. But they get these large seed pods on them that will drop. They germinate pretty easy. But those seed pods actually used to be ground up and used as a coffee when cowboys would run out of coffee as they were moving through the eastern United States into Oklahoma and stuff. They would actually use the Kentucky coffee trees as a source of caffeine. I'm not really sure how it tastes. I've never tried it. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but supposedly it's somewhat similar, and I think it has some caffeine within its seeds. Right here we have a species that I've talked about on this channel before, and we have the blue mist flower. Really beautiful species. This one isn't very large, but they produce quite a bit of seed. They spread through rhizal growth and through seed, but they like these shady understories of these, they like closed or kind of somewhat open canopy forests near wet areas, because there is a creek right down there. I don't know if you can see, yeah, there's some water right there. So they grow in areas with quite a bit of water. And they're absolutely beautiful. They bloom for about a month and a half. Highly recommend planting those in your native. Oh, what is that? We have a cool caterpillar here. I don't want to touch him. It looks like something that would sting me. Oh, he's crawling on me. Oh, sorry, buddy. Anyways, I'm gonna get a video of that guy. Really beautiful. This is kind of the cool things you'll see if you start planting your native trees, native forbs around your properties and your houses. And the majority of this stuff, if you planted it in cities and stuff, it's not really going to cause any difference between planting native or non-native. Other, it's going to be helping our pollinators. Yeah, you may see an influx of insects, but we need insects. Since the year 2000, there's been a 75% reduction in insect species worldwide and populations. And that is a bit concerning from an ecological standpoint, as they are the basis of the food chain. Your birds eat them. And a lot of these bugs that these native plants are going to be attracting are things like butterflies, moths, bees, things that you want to have around your property, things that aren't going to really harm you, especially these small solitary bees. They can sting, but I've been stung. They don't really they don't really hurt really bad. If you do have an allergy, maybe there is an excuse. But if you have a property or a lawn or something that you don't have anything in, get yourself out in the wild. Go collect some seed. Don't take more than 10% of all the seed. That can harm the native plants that we have if you take too much from a population. But if you just take a handful, not more than you need, take some cuttings in the spring or in the fall and do some propagation, which I can talk about later on in this channel. Let me know in the comments if you want to learn something about some propagation. I love doing that. I primarily do it in the spring, but there are some things that propagate quite well in the fall. In my opinion, it's just harder to keep them alive throughout the winter months. Right here, I just noticed this. We have a wild violet. They normally don't bloom at this time of the year, but really pretty plants, really small, really hardy. You'll see them growing in lawns sometimes. Normally these bloom in the springtime. Maybe this is a different species than what I'm used to seeing, or it could be these weird warm days we've been having here in October. All right, this is gonna be a bit rough walking through. It's real grown up with these box elders. Right here's what we came down here for. Here we have an elderberry. A lot of people use these in their berries. They cook them, and I do know they're toxic unless you cook them properly, so be careful with these elderberries. But I've heard that they have a lot of antioxidants in them, and they are pretty good for you. I think this is canadensis. I don't know what its genus is, but canadensis is its specific epithet. These elderberries, I dug some up last spring, moved them only about 100 yards away up into my parents' lawn, and they're spreading up there. So that is a really good sign. It's helping attract a lot of our pollinators up from this creek, helping expand this riparian zone from this creek here all the way up here, because here in Oklahoma it's rather dry, but down here in these bottomland forests, these forests have been here for thousands of years. A lot of people think there aren't many forests in Osage County, but if you get down in these low-lying bottomlands, or even coming up from the bottomlands, you get into the cross timbers, there are a lot of forests and a lot of different tree species and an incredible amount of biodiversity down here. Every time I come down here, I find something new. So it's really important to protect these riparian areas, especially for things like erosion. In areas I've seen that have been dozed around these creeks and stuff, it causes mass erosion, huge biodiversity loss, and it actually doesn't even grow that great of grass because this area is mostly fungal dominated, meaning that the forest is what wants to be here. So fungus dominate the forest and bacteria dominate the prairies. So if you doze an area that's been forest for thousands of years, you have these mycorrhizal fungi all inside the soil here, and whenever you clear cut or doze a piece of land, you're severely damaging the health of that forest, and you're also removing the biodiversity and killing the mycology of this area. And who knows, in these old growth forests, even here in Oklahoma, you never know what fungus may be the cure for cancer, or you know, be something we can use for making vaccines in the future, especially with bio warfare becoming more and more common of a topic we're talking about. Very important to protect our old growth forest and these habitats along these creeks and areas here in Oklahoma that you know, have these fungal dominated soils. So here I am at the trunk of this large sycamore tree. It's got Virginia creeper crawling up on it, another really beautiful vine we have here. A lot of people confuse it with poison ivy, but it has 5 leaves, five, you know, pinnate leaf with 5 lobes, and the poison ivy has 3 lobes. So they're you know, easily mistaken, but these are Virginia creepers, important food source for birds, along with actually poison ivy. So if you have an area of poison ivy and it's not really harming you, you can leave it for the birds. Poison ivy also is really pretty in the fall time. It turns a bright orange whenever it changes color. And then here we have the Virginia creeper, and it actually turns like fiery red. I think it's prettier than that, and it actually won't harm your tree. So it likes shade, so it won't grow up over the ends of the branches shading out your tree. It'll stay up on the trunk of it, not really harming, actually increasing the biodiversity of these areas. But this tree is huge, been here for hundreds of years. Luckily was not dozed with the rest of this forest. So they do seem to be losing their leaves, but right here we have our clump of elderberries growing here. In the springtime, this whole area, and you can see them all growing all throughout here, all these elderberries growing. They grow all throughout this area, and they get really thick. And you can see these cows even have a difficult time coming through here. They've had to clear a path through here to move through. But you can see what I was mentioning. There is actually absolutely no grass or sedges or horseweed growing here, or rushes growing here, because the cows just eat it all up, leaving behind mostly the forbs that are either toxic, and not even that. Like, you look here, these look what they've been eaten upon. That might have been insects. It also been deer. Right there we have some jump seed growing. That's cool. Right here we have a Kentucky coffee tree. It's not looking the greatest, but you know, it could have been defoliated by insects like moths or something. Right over there we have a healthier looking Kentucky coffee tree growing right there. So here are 2 elderberries I dug up that I'm going to transplant, you know, about 100 yards up the hill so they can spread their range out. And I'll keep care of these so they'll grow bigger up there. I don't know why, but they have a weird sulfur smell. Almost smells like feces on their roots. And if anybody knows why they smell like that, please answer in the comment, because I've always wondered why they stink so bad. So yeah, here we have a healthier, prettier Kentucky coffee tree, as well as right over here. Oh, we got a real pretty American elm coming up right here. It's rather large. It's getting up where the cattle can't chew it down. I think this will make an excellent tree one day. So we have a pecan right there growing, American elm right there. We have, might be another native. It could be an Osage orange. Yeah, that's an Osage orange tree. I didn't know there was an Osage orange growing right there. That's really cool. Right here we have a Kentucky coffee tree, and you see its bean pods up here. I'll try to shake some down to collect some seed. It's been spreading out here pretty heavily. So I don't know, it might just be normal for them to lose their leaves a little bit early. They normally turn real bright yellow. They can live for a very long time, have really pretty bark, very upright, pretty trees. Here's the backside of this restoration area. There's that large pin oak I was showing earlier, Corcus palustris growing. And then we have a few loblolly pines I planted there when I was younger. I didn't really know what I was doing yet. I'm gonna leave those, but I'm not gonna plant anymore because they're not a direct native species to this area. Right here we have some more of those sedges growing. You know, if you guys see anything I'm not mentioning that's really cool, please let me know. I think this is a black walnut growing right here. Pretty similar looking to the pecans, but a bit more perfect pinnate leaf. You know, slightly alternating here, alternating branches as well. I don't know, if you know what this tree is, please let me know. Right here we have a ironweed growing. These are really pretty. When they're in full bloom, they're nice and purple. There's its seed. So they're going to seed now. I normally help spread those guys around. There's a goldenrod growing right there at my feet. Here's some of those jump seeds. Well, I see why they call them jump seeds now. Look at them pop as I come up here collecting those seeds. Yeah, look at that. Oh, they're hitting me in the face. Yeah, never really knew why they're called jump seeds. Now I understand why. When they crack off, they just pop everywhere. I'm gonna spread those over there. Yeah, so here we have a pretty unique species to this area, which is the bodark, or the Osage orange tree. They get their name because they produce these large fruits that are about the size, some people call them horse apples, but they're about the size of a softball, a little bit bigger sometimes. And they get this, they're called bodark, which is French for straight wood, I believe. Because as they bend their branches down, they shoot up all these water sprouts here, which are covered in thorns, but people would make bows out of them because it's really, really strong wood and, you know, extremely straight, which is good for bow making. Yeah, I didn't know this tree was right here. This one's kind of old, you know, an older Osage orange tree. I'd say it's at least 10, 15 years old. Actually, here's an Osage orange right here. This one isn't very big. But here's a fruit growing right there. I know I had some in the other parts of my restoration area, but not one this large. So that's really cool. That sycamore up there has been hiding it from me when I've been walking around through here. They have really pretty bark. It's almost an orangey tone. And as they get older, the beauty just keeps getting more significant. Yeah, this one's, you know, clearly had some better days. It's got some rough marks, but it does look really healthy. It looks like a little one's growing right up here underneath it. This one's growing up to the fence, so it might be a problem one day, but this one right here is growing really well on the other side of the fence. That's awesome. I didn't know we had this here. Yeah, so in a decade or so, this area is going to be predominantly Kentucky coffee trees right here, which is really cool. And pecans. We're going to have actually incredible diversity. You know, I've talked about a lot of them here, but yeah, right here we have Kentucky coffee tree. Actually, that looks like a pecan. We got Kentucky coffee trees, and then we got American elms, Osage oranges, sycamores, another American elm, another pecan tree there, some more pecan. No, those are elms. There's a hackberry, a very large hackberry growing right there. More Kentucky coffee trees over here. We got box elders over here and over here. We got elderberries growing. So even though cattle have been grazing this area pretty profusely, so we've lost a lot of our native grasses. Oh, here's some larger Osage oranges. This one's about the size of a baseball, but I've seen them, you know, bigger than a softball, so they can get really large. But yeah, this area is incredibly diverse and very important to protect. It is protected now, which that means they won't spray it. No, it isn't protected from invasive species. I come in and try to remove them. You know, I try my best, but it would really help if I could get some, you know, more helpers out here. But maybe one day, you know, I'll try to see if I can have some days where, you know, I'll have volunteers come out and help me remove invasives. Right here we have one of our native thistles, tall thistle. They grow all along this creek area. They definitely like watery areas, but I've seen them, you know, get 6, 7 feet tall. I just said, oh no. Anyways, but these guys seed profusely. They spread. They like compacted soils, so when they come in, they have these big tap roots that help break up you know, compacted soils, and the more compacted the soil is, normally the bigger the thistles will get. So they're really good remediation species, but you need to make sure what species it is because some of them are highly invasive. These though are native. I have them growing all up around in our yard and all around in the other parts of the restoration area, and they are excellent. Right here we have a pokeweed. You can see it's red stems. I know people make poke salad out of it. It is toxic, so you need to be careful. You need to know how to cook it properly in order not to ingest any of those red toxins on there. Their berries are very important for birds, so if you have pokeweed growing around on your property, don't remove it. It's very important for the birds that are migrating through as well. Another really good remediation species that you see, you know, growing in compacted or damaged soils, normally in lawns and stuff. So here we have a really interesting tree. This tree is probably pushing 300 years old, maybe even older than that. And you can see it's leaning up against this other tree, so it actually must have fallen a little bit. So this tree right here is a dead American elm growing dang, I'm a little worried that when that tree branch here goes, that this is going to go as well. This area used to have this massive American elm. You can see how big that trunk is there. It's probably, you know, 5 feet in diameter, a very large tree. But we have this massive sycamore tree growing here, and it at one point did fall over, and you can see it grows at a 45-degree angle, but it has this giant trunk coming out of it. This one's probably 300 to 400 years old, if I had to guess. You know, it probably has, you know, a diameter down here of around 9 feet. So, you know, bigger than I am tall. And right here, we have some Kentucky coffee trees coming in to replace this. But I don't know if you've ever heard, but, you know, we definitely want to leave this American elm that's dead here, because there is more life in a dead tree than a living one. That might sound contradictory, but there are a lot of microbes and beetles and other things that are living in there. And that's food for things like woodpeckers and other species of bird who come through here, want to pick through there and find food. It also makes hollows within it for things like raccoons and other species to live in. Marsupials like our only native marsupial, the American opossum or possum, I'm not really sure how to say it. But yeah, this large American elm or American sycamore tree, I really hope it stays around. It's definitely one of my mother trees, and it is inside the safe zone of the restoration area. Now, its root system probably comes all the way down to this creek over here, but you know, if you look at this side, there aren't any trees, so she was just barely scathed. But she was barely unscathed, I mean. But right over here, we have a bunch of American sycamores and black willows coming back, and I'm really hoping to do some beaver dam analogs here. And then also I'm hoping to see some more beaver activity going on here with all these willows growing. This is an extension of the restoration area, so now we actually are protecting around 5 acres of land, and with more support we can probably save more land. Now, this area does get grazed by cattle, but it is safe from herbicide use and pesticide use, so at least we have that going for this area, as well as along this side of the creek as well. Now, this area was dozed, so there's a lot of erosion, a lot of things that are recovering. We have a lot of invasives like Johnson grass and cerisa growing here, but you know, with steady work and persistence, hopefully we can get those out, let the natives start coming back, and make this a very ecologically diverse forest / prairie and savanna throughout the rest of its life. So right here, I'm laying on this massive sycamore that we saw laying at a 45-degree angle, and just kind of show how large this tree is. And then right back over here, we got a young hackberry tree growing right here, an American elm right over here, but we also have a black walnut, which we don't have a ton of. I think they might be both black walnuts. This one's definitely black walnut. This one might be a Kentucky coffee tree, but I'm thinking it's a black walnut, which are nice because there aren't a ton of those left, and they can live for hundreds of years. Very important species for these large riparian zones. They produce a lot of food for a lot of different critters. And right over there, we got a small Osage orange coming up. So here we have a devastation area, an area that was really severely dozed not that long ago, but where we have that large sycamore. Right here, we have this large oak that broke its top off. But right here, we have a bunch of pecans coming back in this area, and a bunch of bagworms, which will turn into moss, so they're important as well. If you have bagworms on your pecan tree, they really won't harm your pecan tree. Oh my gosh, that scared me so bad. That guy was crawling on my finger. Gosh, I didn't know what it was. Right here, we have a thistle growing. All right, hey, focus. Yeah, this guy's just wandering over here. Real pretty caterpillar species. All right, get off. There he goes, back in the grass. And right here we have a big problem with the Johnson grass, with this Johnson grass growing here. But you know, actually it seems that hacking it back and allowing for some of these other you know, forbs to come back really helps. So, you know, I might continue to hack back some of those. Here I made a little trail down through here so it wasn't as hard to traverse. Right here we have some young oak trees coming back. There's some Kentucky coffee trees back over here, along with some, actually there's some black locust growing as well. But yeah, so I'm gonna, you know, I have to go plant these, and I'm gonna get back up here in my yard. Right here though, in this area, some pecans are coming back, as this whole area was once large bottomland forest. So, you know, pecans are coming back. These sycamores are only about 8 years old, and they're getting rather large because they get fed so much water. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it educational. I hope you learned something. If you want to watch more videos like this, make sure to hit subscribe so you can get reoccurring videos. Turn on those notifications so you can see whenever I post. And make sure you leave a comment if you have any questions, concerns, or you can answer any of the questions I asked during this video. And have a great rest of your day.